ready? Welcome, everyone. This is Steve from Here and Now. Today is the 26th of July, and we have Professor Abraheim Weisfeld with us today. Good morning. How are you doing?
Much better. Getting over the side effects of my previous medication. I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing.
Right.
So, like taking back control of my life here
Yeah, it's
and
important.
looking forward to your presentation today as well.
Well, thank you very much. I just want to state some agreement with what you just said, and that is that we have to spend some time every day taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
We're forced to work, you know, 1/3 of the day, sometimes more than that, and we don't we're not really encouraging our society to take care of ourselves. So
Hmm.
go, I mean, you get some exercise in, go to the doctor, get blood work done, make
Hmm.
sure your eyes are working well, and those kind of things.
Yeah.
Just make time for yourself. Just do it. Just do it. Okay, so that's it for me on that one. Um, a lot has been going on in the world with war, with people's fight backs, negotiations, military strategy. But something I came across yesterday was quite disturbing. So I want to give everybody a trigger warning. I want to share a video with you on a what is alleged to be a Muslim woman in Moncton, New Brunswick, being attacked by a mob of men and women. It was quite disturbing to see something like this in any setting, anywhere. But the fact that it is alleged to be based on the religion of the woman is quite disturbing. So I'm gonna share this with you guys now, and let's talk about it. Here we
I would
go.
add that culture, religion and culture are being attacked here.
Okay, right on, right on.
Yeah.
Thank you. So here we go. So we're ready to start this video. Okay, here we
Yeah.
go. Woman's on the right, aggressors are on the left, and the aggressors are also. I'm gonna stop. This man with his hands on his hips. Look at this. Just watching. Is
Oh,
and the
yeah.
other and the man on behind the woman,
Mhm.
verbally assaulting her. This is assault in a modern society. It's sick. Bam. Because she had no defense. Boom.
She's not responding at all. She's not trying to defend herself even. Oh, look at that crowd. A lynch crowd.
Now, having been a person who has faced this kind of racist these lynch mobs many times in my life. Okay. And that's
Uh-huh.
why as a black man alone, she's a woman alone. Mobs attack people alone. That's their cowardice. You have to you have to switch your thinking to self-preservation. What should I do? Run, fight, what? I'm just
Hmm.
telling people who watch this video this because I've been in this situation before. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not probably a victim of racist assault, but I have been one. So you have to switch your thinking. And crisis thinking is difficult. Because
Hmm.
who expects to be attacked by anybody?
Hmm.
I mean, who expects that? You don't expect that. And once you start taking blows, and your whole framework changes because now
Hmm.
you're being physically assaulted. It's kind of like when the cops start beating on people, they just grab them. It was, oh no, what's happening? You don't know what to do. So
Yeah.
I can't blame her for not doing it because she didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
The last thing she expected when her son at the grocery store have some mob of people attacking you. Right? Right.
Yeah.
The last thing you expect.
Hmm.
A dog a car maybe gonna hit you. Okay, you see a dog come run toward you, see a car gonna hit you in the parking lot. maybe in the realm of possibility. But a group of people coming at you, throwing slurs at you, and attacking you, and doing nothing to help you. Oh no,
Yeah,
that's over the top.
yeah,
So
yeah.
share what's going on in Canada with the media about this. Well, what's going on in the media?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know how much she must have been feeling, because when you're attacked like that, it's so irrational. You can't believe, that it's actually happening, and you don't, like consider, what you could do, because you don't believe that it's happening in the first place. You have to believe it. Believe it. You're being
Believe
attacked.
it,
You have to
right?
defend yourself. Period.
Right.
Yeah.
You have
Can you
even
show
even
that again? Like it's so important. Can you show that video again?
I sure can. I don't like showing you. I'll show it again. Sure. It's right back here.
This is what racism is, like, and if people think, oh, racism is on the decline, it's not something we should be
Casey's
concerned
gone.
about.
Let me
Well,
show
here it
you.
is. She's pretty ugly too, the attacker. She's probably got some jealousy mixed in with her racism there. And then in the bottom left, it says a Muslim woman was assaulted in front of her 7-year-old son during a car parade in Moncton, New Brunswick. That's where the Conservative Party has a stronghold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now I have something to show you about that video as well. Now, check this out. That's in Canada. Canada is
Right.
supposed to be, this liberal island of perfection. Have a look at this. Okay. I think it's being seen now. Ah,
Yeah.
it says we received a legal request to restrict this content. We received a legal request from
I wonder
whom?
who from whom. Yeah, exactly. That's what we want to find out. Who made the
Yeah,
request?
yeah. We reviewed it against our policies. They don't even say we reviewed it and decided it is against our policies. We reviewed it against our policies. It's not even good English. And conducted a legal and human rights assessment. Huh.
Wow.
That's, like just obstruction of with words. And conducted a legal and human rights assessment. Really? Where's the result of that assessment? Where's the law that's being broken? Like human rights assessment, protecting the human rights of the races. What is this about? Like it's insane. The reactionary insane mentality will lie. They will lie
All
every
the time.
time,
Every time.
you
That's all
know,
they do. That's all
and
they
they don't
do.
care. They don't call it lying. They just saying, that it's their cultural self-determination as white supremacists. Okay, after the review, what review? We restricted access to the content in the location where it goes against local law. What local law? Local law in Canada? What local law prevents the showing of this video? An expose of racism. There is no local law which does that in Canada. In Canada, we have a constitution which assures the freedom of expression, the freedom of speech. There is no such local law. This announcement is unconstitutional. We can learn more details. We can learn more about content restrictions in our Transparency Center. Oh, yeah, Transparency Center. Yeah, nothing to be learned there. Incredible, huh? This is Canada.
But I want someone to see it doesn't involve a police beating. It doesn't involve a man hitting a woman. It involves a woman aggressing another woman, reportedly because she was Muslim. Like you said earlier, off screen. How do we know she's a Muslim? And that is a legitimate question because she didn't have hijab on. I don't know if she took hijab off, if she was taken off her face. Maybe hijab was grabbed and taken off of her. Who knows? I don't know. It's a good
Yeah.
question. I,
Yeah,
I don't
and
know,
and
but
even if she wasn't wearing a hijab because she was afraid to do so, like the racists, they will pick up on anything. They'll even ask you, like if you're a Muslim, just in order to be able to have a reason to attack you. Like it's
well. I want to say something too, and this is where I think our anti-Zionist Muslim brothers and sisters should step up right now. They should
Mhm.
step up, and they should step up and say, if this is an assault, even the Zionists could step up. If there's an assault on this woman because she's Muslim, we as the Jewish people do not support this.
Yeah,
They need to say, no, they need to say this right now. This is
yeah,
where solidarity can create bonds that last decades. Because
yeah,
Jewish people support the civil rights movement. They did.
yeah.
And that does bring, at least between the older black people and Jewish people, there's a bond there. You could
Mm,
go to Jewish stores and get some. The Jewish doctor would see you, and the white doctor wouldn't see you. Okay?
mm,
Then they
hmm.
would. This is straight up. This is history. And
Yeah,
that solidarity makes a difference.
yeah,
That's why in me as a black boy growing up, I could never be anti-Semitic. Oh my God, it would be, oh no, that would be a big crime, a social
yeah.
crime. So people who are, I mean, really, this kind of thing here, no matter what the cause, needs to be condemned. If you don't condemn, you can't be quiet about this kind of stuff. No, don't be
Hmm.
quiet. I don't want to get involved. No, get involved.
Hmm.
Okay? People in Canada, get involved.
Yeah, yeah. I can
Capital,
I
get
can
involved.
present this, to all sorts of organizations here, asking for their support to denounce this lack of action, lack of responsibility,
And how about
racism.
arresting somebody? How about detaining somebody? You
Yeah.
have clear videos here, faces, you have time, sure you have cameras in the parking lots, you get
Mm,
license plate numbers of the cars. How about doing because in most situations, even a detention and interrogation at least is called for. She's in the hospital.
mm,
The lady's in the hospital. She
mm,
was hospitalized.
mm, mm.
So this is, this kind of stuff you have to kind of put your foot down and say, no, 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 we ain't
Okay,
having it.
so
Anyway,
yeah.
okay.
So the Jewish Socialist Bund, of course, denounces this, and we will circulate this and ask for public denunciation of this event.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
this is something that, like in the Europe, when the attacks like this took place, they were called pogroms.
right, right,
And only the Jewish Bund, was there to, to stop them. In 1905, the Jewish Bund took on the fascist Black Hundreds, they were called,
right. I
defeated
remember.
them in the street, by 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 fighting them and stopping them from attacking. And we won that battle in 1905. And that was the pre-revolutionary instance that prepared the way for the 1917 revolution. So, this is something that is so important that, it becomes a precedent when we
Right,
win
right,
for a
right.
much greater victory thereafter. Okay,
Yeah,
this is crucial. And if we don't stop it, then the fascists win. So, this is why,
yeah.
not just a matter of, morality alone, this is a matter of self-defense and survival. Without, defeating this and exposing this, we're
Yeah.
subject to even greater attacks.
And I do think that there's a statement by a national Canadian Muslim organization which I saw that condemned it. But I do think there might need to be a shift in how these organizations how some of their work may need to be behind closed door and secret. But how do you defend yourself in these situations? What should you
Yeah.
do?
And the Canadian
Because
Muslim Association is not going to get covered by the media.
right,
They're going to be, like, uh, they're going to be suppressed. So we have to go to other organizations and then pull them all together, in the common statement as well. But I don't know if all these organizations are capable of doing so. They'll always find an excuse not to do anything. Anyway, I'm going to put the pressure on. Okay, I'm stopping sharing on this censorship here. It's there. It's recorded now. Can't be
wow,
denied. And and now we're going to defeat it.
there you go. No, that's good. And again, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I regret having to show such violence on our program, but what I saw was it was so disappointing, so revulsive and concerning me, an allegation that is religion, it's based on religion, is totally unacceptable. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A police investigation that goes a police investigation that goes nowhere is also unacceptable. You have ample evidence, you have ample rights to bring these people in and to interrogate them.
Yes.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Law enforcement can do that, and if they don't do it, then there's something really wrong,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
and they should be condemned.
Yeah.
At this point, failure to act should result in a condemnation. I'd even go further. I think there should be a rally and a march somewhere in
Yeah.
that area. If you can do it in that area, you might not be able to do it in that area or somewhere in
Yeah.
Canada to
Yeah.
to 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 condemn this. It has to
Yes.
be. It
Yeah.
cannot go unanswered
Yeah.
because not because I'm sure on the right wing and the fascist billboard they're showing this, they're having a good time with it.
Uh-huh. Well, even an individual, present at the scene there could have made a citizen's arrest of that woman, held her on detention until the police arrived, turn her over, and charge her as a witness, asking for her to be charged, with assault. Assault uh, uh, under certain provisions, there's assault and then there's assault with hatred. An act of assault, motivated by hatred is a double penalty accusation and a sentence. So, that's what has to be. Okay, now the other thing that we have been talking about, and which is so important, is that there is still no anti-movement, anti-war movement mobilization against the war inflicted upon Iran.
Well, I found one. I found one
Ah,
in the United States, but you're right, there's not enough. There's a group
yeah.
called the National Anti-War Coalition, UNAC, and they're doing. I can keep talking. I will bring up the poster.
That would be
100%.
very interesting, because I haven't heard of that coalition
Oh
before.
no, no, it's
Heard of,
very. I mean, the basic left groups are doing nothing. It's just I'm wondering who they really represent at this point. If you
yeah.
can't, and I even wrote somebody. I wrote a left group that I'm in contact with and asked them a question. I got no response. I said,
Oh,
why is there so little opposition to the war of Israel and the United States against Lebanon,
yeah.
Gaza, the West Bank, and Iran? And I think you said something to me that really has pushed me. I'm coming around to the view that right now, the struggle of self-defense by Iran and Lebanon and the Houthis is the leading force for revolution in the world. They
Hmm.
are, or at
Yeah.
least anti-imperialism. Who else is
Yes, and,
doing
and they say so. They talk about being anti-imperialist
it?
on Press TV, dot IR, which sometimes gets blocked, but there's a way around it.
Oh yeah, no, you can see it on you can see it on Telegram. It's right there. Yeah,
Ah,
you're
uh-huh.
right.
Yeah. No, this is like the worst answer. I think answer was usually, the coalition that called for
Yeah,
national
yeah,
mobilization.
true. Answer was, and they've had. I think, yeah, you're right. You're right about that. 100% correct.
Nothing from answer. What about this, like supposedly revolutionary party? What's it called? Party of Liberation and Socialism or something like that? Nowhere around. What are they in favor of? Like if they're not against imperialism, like what kind of a party against for
Well,
liberation and socialism are they?
I think well, the question has to be asked, and I'm still looking up. Oh, here, let me get this stuff. Sorry, give me a minute. I'm
Hmm.
looking up this leaflet to show it to everybody. So I'm sorry. I didn't know we were going to discuss this because
So there's
I
a new coalition, a new united front that you're looking for to
no,
to achieve.
no, it isn't new. Um,
Yeah.
it's not new. It's been around a while, but
Ah.
it's
Uh-huh.
been around. They're doing this. They don't get a lot of groups won't, or a lot of groups don't do United Front work with them. I don't know why.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh yeah. Well, that's easily explained by sectarianism. Sectarianism
Exactly.
it's self, defeating yourself. Congratulations, you've destroyed yourself, and now you will be killed by the fascists. That's what's going to happen unless you do something else.
Unless you do something else, yeah. I met someone at a rally, and they said people aren't doing this because they're scared of the repression that they might face. Excuse me. I mean, if you claim to want to fight for freedom and internationalism, part of the deal is there's going to be some pushback against you by the state. Yeah, that's part of the
Yeah,
deal. So
yeah,
maybe you shouldn't say you're actually a so and so.
yeah. Like when the German communists and the German socialists in 1933 did nothing when Hitler was appointed to be Chancellor of Germany. Okay, they did nothing. There was no protests. And they were just waiting for an election. When the election came, the fascists just came around, and tore down all the communist and socialist posters, and then intimidated people into not even going in to vote. And so, with 38% of popular support, the Nazis, won the following election, but they were appointed in the first place. They weren't elected. And then a lot of, liberals will say, oh, well, look, like Nazis were elected. And they either consider that, to be a legitimization of Nazism, or they consider that to be their critique of democracy. Okay, critique of democracy, yeah. But why don't they critique themselves, for not having done something, in the first place? No, they can't do that.
Well,
You know,
I'm asking that question because I think that it has to be. I'm sorry, I can't find a leaflet right now. The next meeting we can show it. I'll find it. I don't want to be looking through email during our videotaping. But
okay, so
but I know that they have called for a meeting. They have that because I've gotten material from them. Okay.
uh-huh. Okay, so let's consider, what the state of the war is at now.
Sure.
From what I hear,
Sure.
Iran is successfully hitting the U.S. military bases and taking out the F-15s that are parked there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And
Yeah.
then the other planes, once they heard that the missiles were launched from Iran, then they just their planes, probably the F-35s, took off and hid themselves in the sky somewhere so they wouldn't be bombed. But there's been a lot of damage there, including a secret CIA center as well
Oh,
that I saw.
good. Well, see, I was, boy, that's always interesting when a secret CIA places is discovered or a secret base is discovered. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're the ones, like with the contacts inside Iran that are trying to destabilize the government there, which is elected. And in the Gulf states, there are no elections. So
Boy,
I mean,
say it
Iran
again.
can,
Say that again, please. People just say that again. There are elections in Iran.
yeah,
You might not like the system, but you don't have a dictatorship like you have in these monarchies or these
yeah.
so is this just
And the United States claims that it's, fighting for freedom. They talked about having what was it, a freedom coalition to open the Strait of Hormuz?
This brilliant
no,
pillow.
a freedom
Freedom on
coalition.
behalf of whom? Like Iran is already free. It's got, its elections, but the Gulf states, they don't have elections. They're an aristocratic regime, dictatorship. And the
And
United States is supporting them.
the desire to remove the Islamic Republic leadership and reestablish the Shah is a desire to establish another monarchy.
Yeah.
There's a show I saw that the show I saw by this guy. Don't remember his name. It was on the internet a couple of days ago. I saved it, but I can't pull it up right now.
Pahlavi regime, the Pahlavi
Right,
monarchy.
right, right. And Shah means king.
Yeah.
And people don't know that. Shah means king.
Yeah.
So what the United States wants to do is by reinstalling the Shah's son, by
Yeah.
installing him, they want to install a Gulf style monarchy
Yeah.
in Iran, in which the Gulf, the the Gulf states would like. But they don't like it because they don't like one reason is it's not a monarchy. They have elections.
Yeah.
People don't understand that why that's okay. Let's say you want to have a monarchy. Okay, in my view, politically, you're a freaking idiot. You can have a monarchy. You can have a sitting king if that's your pre-election. Historically, we have to have a king. We have to have a queen. But do they rule by dictate? You have to have some kind of input by the people. I'm saying even with the development of civilizations, part of the development of civilization is how does the public have a say in governance, even if it's capitalist, even if it's capitalist. And so the whole thing against the Islamic Republic isn't to me about it being a Muslim country because Saudi Arabia is a form of Islam. It's the fact that they at least have gone past the Shah and his being a puppet of the United States. They want puppets. They don't
Yeah.
want anybody. They want puppets.
Yeah.
They don't believe in the. They do not believe the capitalist United States, the West does not. Well, maybe I shouldn't say all the West, but the United States does not believe in the sovereignty of countries. They believe they are the king, and
Mm-hmm.
they can oppose sovereignty whenever they get the notion. You know what? I don't know what you're doing. I'm gonna put a sanction on you. Why? I'm the king. That's why. And they, that's why, because I'm the king. But wait a minute, this is my country. I don't care about that. I don't care about your country. Yeah.
Yeah.
So people, that's where it starts.
Yeah.
Whether you like the system or not, they have a sovereign. There are ways of opposing sovereignty. You can oppose if say something's going on so funky against humanity. There are ways to pull back sovereignty for human rights. There are, and for workers' rights there are. But the United States does not want Iran to have any sovereignty. It was good. And again, I heard it last night. I was going to show this. I can't. I'm having some trouble showing this. But there's a show. There's a show um, that Jamarl Thomas had with John Hilmer yesterday, and I will share. I'll find some way of sharing it with you guys. But they
Mhm.
talk about that Saudi Arabia now is going to have going to have nuclear power plants.
Mm.
Now, who's building it? The United States, of course.
Mhm. Mhm.
And they will not have that IAEA inspections.
Yeah.
No, none of that because they're our bastards, quote unquote. They may be a bastard, but they are bastards. And they're
Yeah.
also saying the hypocrisy of the anti-nuclear stand against Iran when the United States is going to be building power plants, a nuclear reactor in Saudi Arabia, nothing will be said. So therefore,
Yeah.
what's going to happen is Saudi Arabia will develop an atomic bomb and will bomb Iran. That's what I predict will happen
That's what they're
unless unless it's
planning. Yeah. That's what they're
unless
planning.
it's unless this is stopped.
Yeah.
They will develop an atomic weapon. So Iran better develop an atomic weapon because they might
Mm.
be getting hit by Saudi Arabia.
Mm.
And I should
And
sit back and watch.
the technicalities on that is that in a nuclear power plant, one of the byproducts is plutonium.
Right.
And plutonium can be refined to produce a combustible nuclear bomb. I think even a fusion bomb, with the plutonium,
Wow.
or it can be used to ignite a fusion bomb. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Um,
I also want to say
incredible
something.
what they're trying to get away with. It's just incredible. They think they can get away with this. No, no way they're going to get away with this. No.
But these guys on this show here, I'm just going to share the screen, share the screen from the show. I think something that they were saying was quite interesting.
Uh-huh.
They were saying that I'm not going to play anything from the show, but they were saying that even though what we're saying is true on the military perspective, politically, what the war has done is build a greater coalition between the United States and the Gulf states. because they have been hit by Iran militarily and therefore damaging their country. One of the things that has happened objectively is that the Gulf Council states are getting special support. Their militaries have been involved in secret strikes against Iran. They have been, um, and that one of the benefits as far as U.S. imperialism has been, now they have greater alliance with the Gulf states because they have been attacked. I'm just saying that this was said on the show yesterday, which I found interesting. That's all.
Yes.
That's all.
Okay.
Israel has been sidelined, right? Israel hasn't been, at least they're not talking about any attacks. They're focusing on South Lebanon. So something's going on there. Why Israel hasn't been involved in the recent attacks? Because you know that is coordinated. So you know the whole thing is coordinated.
Yeah. It also proves that the United States attack on Iran is not instigated, maybe promoted, maybe encouraged, by the state of Israel, but it is not, like a
Oh yeah,
plot of
right.
Israel to maneuver the United States into attacking Iran. The United States is attacking Iran on its own. Doesn't
Oh,
need Israel, to provoke it.
oh,
Like that's
that's,
all
that's an
what they
excellent.
call BS. And it's a leftist, who are promoting this BS.
Oh,
Even Mahmoud Odi, like who's, very
yeah,
well
yeah. What's he
informed.
saying? What's he saying these days about this? He's still saying that. He's still saying.
They say that, that, and they say the opposite at the same time. They don't realize that they're engaging in a contradiction, because they're so mixed up about what the role of Israel is, they can't figure it out, Well, why don't they ask somebody, who knows? Why don't they ask the Jewish Bund, to be interviewed, on their program, to explain, what's going on, with respect to the Jewish political culture. They don't want to know. They only want to know about their own sort of, cultural perspective. And they don't believe that there is a Jewish cultural perspective. They only believe, that Jewishness is Zionism. They think Zionism, they believe what the Zionists say about the Jewish people, in effect, that Zionism represents the Jewish people. And that's a lie. And it's so evidently a lie, because more than 55%, of the Jewish people don't even live in the state of Israel. So how could Israel be speaking for the Jewish people? No way. And even now, in the coming election, the poll results show that 33% of the Jewish Israelis do not support Netanyahu. Okay? But, these leftists will go on and say, oh, these damn Israelis, like 87% support Netanyahu and support genocide in Gaza. Before it was 92%, are supporting, genocide in Gaza. Well, if you actually look at, what's going on right now, it's 33%. So even if it was, 92%, before at the beginning of the war, right after October the 7th, when, the Jewish Israelis believed all the propaganda about, the rapes and massacres, which were false. Well, if it was true at that time, they've changed. Why don't they say that the Jewish Israelis are turning against the regime there? Why don't they talk about the Jewish Orthodox demonstrations against conscription? Why don't they talk about the demonstrations of standing together, which now includes the Palestinians, mass demonstrations? They don't cover this. That makes them reactionaries. Okay, they may be leftists, but they're still reactionary. And they don't even realize, and they refuse to consider it, and refuse to listen to it, and refuse to hear about it. They're good for nothing, in effect. And this corresponds, to the lack of anti-war movement protests against the war on Iran. I have an analogy to present to you, which nobody has talked about before. Maybe because everybody else is so young, they don't remember this, but I remember this. In 1956, what happened in 1956 when Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal? Ah, everybody should know. Maybe they do know, but it's somehow, like placed, in a part of the memory, which makes it irrelevant, because they dismissed it. Okay, in 1956, when Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal, which was an international waterway before, in which everybody, from Europe, utilized in order to get, stuff from India. Okay, nationalized. So there was a war because of the nationalization of the Suez Canal, which belongs to Egypt, entirely within Egyptian territory. Okay. So what happened? Israel attacked, England attacked, France attacked, Egypt, all at the same time. They're trying to occupy the Suez Canal, take it over, and keep it, under their control. And Israel was supposed to guarantee this control with the boots on the ground. That's the purpose of Iran. Sorry, that's the purpose of Israel as far as the United States is concerned. Israel provides the boots on the ground that the United States cannot provide because of the anti-war sentiment of the American people, in spite of the lack of protests. But the Israeli regime, they get a lot of more popular support, and so the United States uses Israel because they cannot use their own troops to do the job that they want to get accomplished. Okay, so what was the result of that war in 1956? Egypt won. And now the Suez Canal is under the control of Egypt. Even if, Egypt is a reactionary regime, it still is under the control of Egypt and not Israel and not the United States of America. And the whole Sinai Peninsula was returned to Egypt because of the 1973 war, which Egypt undertook to attack Israel. And when they were making headway there, and they only lost because they didn't have the air power to defend themselves and didn't have, the air defense system. And so their old, obsolete aircraft, were destroyed, all destroyed, before they could even take off. But they advanced into the Sinai, about halfway into the Sinai Peninsula, against the IDF, the Imperial Death Force of Israel. And so Israel had to sue for peace because they were losing the war. And eventually they had to make a peace agreement with Egypt in which they agreed to withdraw from all of the Sinai Peninsula, all of the land that they had occupied there. They lost. They retreated. That's what the result of that war was. And I think that we can look forward to the same result in this war here, because now Yemen had joined Iran in closing off the straits there. Yemen has closed the strait, to Saudi Arabia, and they just blew up one of their tankers. Saudi Arabia tanker, when, and not, of their own initiative. No, they were attacked first by Saudi Arabia. And so now Yemen and the Ansar Allah, the revolutionary movement of Yemen, has now undertaken its offensive operations against Saudi Arabia. And if the United States wants to bomb Yemen, then Yemen can very easily attack, the shipping, that concerns the United States of America as well as Saudi Arabia. I think that the Zionist affiliated and owned shipping concerns are also blocked, but that's not announced on the news. So, Saudi Arabia is now under attack from the revolutionary forces, both from Iran and I don't know about Iran, because Iran was treating Saudi Arabia somewhat lightly because Saudi Arabia it began to shift its alliances and formed a pact with Pakistan uh, to defend it against any possible nuclear attack because Pakistan has a nuclear bomb, right? So, Saudi Arabia has been looking for backup from Pakistan in case they get attacked, by guess who? Israel, which does have a nuclear bomb and is not a member of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and neither is Saudi Arabia. So what's going to stop Saudi Arabia from developing a nuclear bomb? Not to be used against Israel, but to be used against Iran, as you said. So, Sinai uh, Suez Canal is the precedent here. And I think will provide, the provision, prevision to know, what the result of this war is going to be. Because just as Egypt has won the war, for the control of the Suez Canal, I believe that Iran will also win this war for the control of the Strait of Hormuz, which is within its territorial waters, together with Oman.
I,
And it's not
uh,
an
I,
international waterway as claimed by, by what's his name from the United States.
I think that you have broken some important new ground here because no one is saying what you just said.
Yeah,
I mean, this is a parallel in world. This is how world history needs to be studied. And then say, okay, we have this situation now. what what historical what has occurred in history similar to this? Anything? If so, what? So most times something has occurred historically to something that's going on. Most times.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is that in a way that Israel, the attempt to the attempt to stop Egypt from nationalizing the that waterway is what's going on. It's a parallel right now. Interesting. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
well.
Incredible.
Hmm.
Okay. Well,
Well, no, but wait a minute. How can we spread this? We need to. What
yeah.
you're saying
Yeah.
through a leaflet, through a video, something we could create to share that what you just said in a definitive way. Maybe just take that part of the program, cut it, edit, maybe add a few things and end it like that. Because that's a very important statement you just made.
Yeah.
Very important.
We'll probably get a clip from Substack on that subject. And if not, I can create a clip to that effect and then circulate it more broadly.
Yeah, because I
But
do think we can talk about it. Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll work
Thank,
on that.
no, we can work on it too together. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that. Thank you. That's very important.
We've got a lot of responsibilities here. We're overwhelmed, like we need help.
Well, we need our listeners and readers and subs to act, just to step up.
Yeah. Mhm. Just circulating, this kind of material, like it's an action in and of itself because it
You
breaks
know,
through the censorship and the lack of consciousness of those who think that they are the know-it-alls. Yeah. We've got to break through here. Okay, so we appeal to the listeners, get this material out, because it's not available anywhere else.
no,
Okay.
it isn't. No, that analysis is not out there. What you just said is not out there. No, it isn't. You're right.
Yeah. Maybe because I'm 78 years old and I know this, and I lived through it, and I remember it, even though I was a kid. But I
Well,
remember when I was a kid, like I was 8 years old, and I remember, about the war, and because I heard about it, and I went and spoke to my mother about it. And then,
and
it's a whole story, a whole other story, like it's very embarrassing, I won't get into it right now, but like this is one of my first, political events that I was aware of, at the age of 8 that helped to form my consciousness. So I'll remember this, and that's why I'm able to present it to you here. But other people, are too young to know about it. I mean, they should know about it if they know anything about history,
no, they
but they
don't.
don't study. They don't study this. It's not taught.
Well,
It's not
oh,
mentioned.
the organizations that exist, the organization that exists to bring about social change, we're going to have to use the last 100 years of history more actively because the current history is based on that last century of work by imperialism and also by anti-imperialists.
Hmm.
The current situation is a result of what happened before, what came before. That's history.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is when we have something happen, let's develop a practice, a way of a practice. What has happened historically similar to this? Look and find it. Look. And
Yes.
then we can start talking about, well, since this happened 300 years ago, 200 years ago, 100 years ago, here are the historical precedents.
Yeah.
Precedents. You must learn from that. That's part of being smart. Okay, what
Hmm.
happened before? Now where are we? What's happening now? What are the similarities? What are the differences? And how do we move forward? How do we move forward using that knowledge from history? It's
Yeah.
very important.
It's become sort of blatant, when you look at the 1956, war to take back the Suez Canal from Egypt, which failed. One of the reasons why it failed is because the United States intervened against the colonial powers, because the United States was anti-colonial at the time because they were trying to look good, in front of the third world after the Second World War, when all the colonies, were reclaiming their independence. The United States, had to sort of, say, we too, fought for independence, from the monarchist, like a British, empire, and we support you, and you should support us. Okay, that was their line at the time, so they supported Egypt, and that's why one reason, why the war against Egypt, failed. Another reason was, like if this Suez Canal was going to be occupied, by those colonial powers, including Israel, the Soviet Union was there to stop them from occupying the Suez Canal. So the United States had to step in first and say, no, it's us, that's going to, support your, independence, your sovereignty of a third world country. Now, the United States is doing the opposite. The United States is playing the role of British and French imperialism, using Israel as a proxy again, hmm, instead of supporting the democratic government of Iran, which is seeking its sovereignty over its own territorial waters. So instead of supporting Iran, they're supporting the monarchist regimes of the Gulf. So the United States has done a complete turnaround. Instead of supporting democracy, it is supporting monarchy. And yet
Well,
they claim to, to be having a revolutionary war against, colonialism, of the United States of America. It's complete turnaround against its own nature. The United States is now against itself in terms of its constitutional precedent. Incredible, incredible turnaround. And are people aware of this? Not fully. They don't even know, that they're supporting monarchist regimes there. They haven't thought about this yet. Okay, now they'll say, oh, but the elections in Iran, they have a vetting process, for candidates. Not everybody can be a candidate. Yeah, true. United States of America, it's called primaries.
yeah,
Not anybody.
I was about to say that. I mean, I doubt there's any election in the world where there's no vetting. Vetting meaning we're going to whittle down the names. Vetting just
Yeah,
means we're going to whittle down. That's what that means. In reality, we're going to whittle down the names. So two people running, we got to whittle down the names. So they have what they call primaries or whatever. Yeah,
yeah,
anywhere in the world you get vetting.
yeah, yeah, of course, And the vetting process in Iran actually had one positive result, because the former president of Iran, Ahmadinejad, that
I know.
jerk who held a conference, questioning that the Holocaust had taken place.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Yeah,
That jerk, like he's out. He is not allowed to be a candidate because he's
but
such a jerk.
but
So
didn't Israel try to? Wasn't there a secret cabal to bring him to power after as part of this war? I heard
yes,
it turned
Mossad
out.
is working with Ahmadinejad right now to make him
Oh
president again.
no, he should be ashamed of himself.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so unite. Oh, that's he be.
This is so important, like crucial, to deciding, like what this is all about, and yet it is not known,
I'm
and you
like,
have
but
to,
how could he unite with the Mossad if he promoted that there was no Holocaust?
Holocaust. Yeah.
It's a very, it's a very a weird alliance. You're aligned with somebody whose national existence is based on an 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 irrefutable historical event. Come
Yeah.
on, man, it's not
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So Mossad is supporting him, to be president of Iran. And if he did
But
become president of
how?
Iran,
My God,
then
this how it does. I mean, that's politics. That's
yeah.
reaction. That's the reaction. I mean, Mossad supporting. I still don't understand how that. How can he even hold power? How can he even hold power? It would be illegal. Oh my God! Wow,
Yeah. No. Yeah.
that's sorry, but it's just
Yeah.
Ahmadinejad is a
It's all
strange guy.
crazy. It's too crazy to believe, but we both know about it. It's both been reported. We've seen how it's been reported, but not
Yeah.
on any mainstream platform, not even on the major social media platforms has this been discussed.
But let me
Because
say again, I think that your statement, your analysis right there, looking at the parallels of the differences of the 1956 Suez Canal crisis and the 2026 Strait of Hormuz crisis. That parallel needs to be talked more about because that
Yeah.
is what's that. It's very it's almost impossible to not draw some lessons from
Yeah.
these two historical events. And the
Yeah.
United States, I mean, the fact that even a clown like Mersheimer won't even talk about it is kind of interesting. Anyway,
Mm.
that guy,
Mershaw, I don't trust him. No.
yeah, no, don't trust him.
Yeah.
Don't trust him. No,
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think we've got it covered for this week.
I think so. Great.
Okay.
Um, People in Canada, right? Investigate this assault that we see. We tragically had to share with you.
Yeah.
Investigate this. Demand answers. Do not let them say we're investigating whether. No, 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 no. Bring the suspects in, interrogate them as you would do anybody else. Do your police work, and we want some justice here and some questions answered. How is a lady doing in the hospital? Can somebody set up a GoFundMe page for her, or can she authorize a GoFundMe page? If she's in the hospital, she probably doesn't have any money to pay her bills and maybe go to work. Is she married?
No, healthcare is free in Canada, like that's not a
Okay,
concern there.
okay,
But
all right.
somebody should
That's
go
what we think.
there to the
That's what we think.
hospital and interview her, ask her what happened and why, she
Yeah,
was
what happened?
attacked. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
what
have to
happened?
hear from her, but
True.
nobody has done it so far. What
Yeah.
journalist has gone, to do their work there? None.
Well, we need to find out. You're in Canada. Hope you can find out because
Okay.
somebody. You know what? I just thought about somebody I can reach out to right now about this. When I
Hmm.
hang up, I'm going to the people who are against the war and against Iran. They have allies in Canada. Maybe they can find out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's cool.
Very good. Okay. And thank you so much for bringing this expose up. Like this isn't known in Canada. Now it's going to be known. Thank you very much.
No problem.